ourselves to a point, and then at some point we'll start doing some of the things that we'll see from our opponents, starting with TCU. And that's, what we do is a little bit different than what some other teams do, but we need to work on what we need to work on, and then we'll transition into what we can do.
Second quick question. Do you get excited more, and are you excited?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, we spent a lot of time, Mike and I spent a lot of time along with scouts and coaches of putting the team together, team building. That started with the wrap up of the 25 recruiting class, then the early portal in January, then a couple of late 25 add-ons would come, and then obviously the spring portal, and we're still transitioning through one or two guys here at the end of the roster. So to see all those guys come together, to see the players who are here train hard and make significant improvements in their strength, explosion, and speed. And then what work we have been able to do collectively is very, very encouraging. These guys are bought in, they're working hard. It's exciting to see what they're going to be able to do on the field. So, yeah, very much looking forward to it.
Right behind here.
Aaron Beard with the AP. Your presence has brought a lot of attention to this program. Everything you're doing is getting magnified in attention-wise nationally. But
really?
Imagine that. But for the players, it's a different challenge for the players where the spotlight may be on them more than it's ever been before, partly because of you being on the sideline. I mean, how do you manage that with a group of guys that are young and say, keep it from being something that's suffocating where any screw up could be magnified just because of your presence here?
Yeah. I mean, again, regardless of, and I appreciate where you're coming from on that, but honestly, for all of us, it's control what we can control. Whoever's here or isn't here, that's out of our control. We have a job to do. We have a lot of work to accomplish, and we need to come together and build our team, both on and off the field, our chemistry, our communication, and then, of course, our execution on the field. So that's our biggest challenge, and what's external is external, and honestly, a lot of it's just noise. It doesn't, we've seen all the preseason rankings and this and that and all, and it's great, but that isn't going to affect us. We're going to, compete on Saturdays and Mondays or whatever day it is, and that'll determine what happens, not some predictions or projections or anything else. So we'll just kind of ignore that and move on.
All right, Brian.
Brian Murphy with WRL. How did you handle the back end of the roster as far as the designated student athletes? How many scholarships you gave out? Did you get to the 105 or above that? And then secondly,
and so he'll be ready to participate out there with all the other players. Sorry, my memory.
Just the back end of the roster.
Oh yeah, so that's a great question. It's still a little bit of a work in progress. Our scholarships will be under 105. We do have the grandfather clause or rule in where the players that were walk-ons last year get grandfathered in, and so us, probably like most every other college team, will be actually over the 105 with those grandfathered players on. We have some players who are not on scholarship who would be under the 105, and obviously most of them will be on scholarship, but there are some guys that are kind of in that gray area. Maybe they can earn a scholarship, depending on what their role is and so forth. So from a numbers standpoint, we're in good shape. Like we're not going to have to release players to get to the 105. We already kind of did that in the spring, which was a difficult decision to make. But I think most of those players ended up at other schools, and will be playing this fall. So I do think it kind of worked out for them. They're in a situation where they'll have a chance to play. But we're not really going to be restricted on the roster size this year. I think there's probably be something we'll have to work on next year, but for this year, we're actually under.
Back up.
Yeah. Love those bottom of the roster questions. I mean, a lot of people let that stuff go, but honestly, those are important decisions. Some of those players eventually are going to end up helping us. I just know that's the way it's going to work out. So, to me, those players are just, they're just as important as the top 10, but they're going to be factors on our team and have roles. So, we're constantly trying to make sure we, from top to bottom, do the best we can. Sorry. Yep.
Last row, yep.
Adam Smith, Inside Carolina. Hey, Bill. Just wanted to ask you about Fred Kitchens and him running the offense, installing the offense, and just what that sort of process looks like. You're known as a guy more for like defensive side
and the coaches or whoever's responsible for those areas. So, whether it's with Mike on special teams or Freddie or Steve, they have a lot of responsibility for the areas that they have. There's no question about that. But, from a team standpoint, I want to collectively put together the best plan and the best role for our players. Sometimes they overlap a little bit. And so in order to do that, I kind of have to, be a part of all of it. But in terms of Freddie, Freddie's a very aggressive coach. Wants to have a physical team, physical running game, physical presence on offense. We just don't want to run backwards on every play. We want to be aggressive, and we have we think we have the players to run that type of offense. I'm sure we're going to have to modify it a little bit. We have good depth at quarterback, and so we'll see how it all plays out. But Freddie has a lot of experience, spent a lot of time in the NFL, he spent a lot of time in college football. And it's been honestly very helpful for him, for me, the fact that he was here the last couple of years. So, he has a lot of experience and perspective on some of the things that were done, well, that we can build on, maybe some things that we're changing, and how that change might affect, just a relative to what's happened in the past. So, he's been a great help, and I won't say addition because he was here, we're actually the addition, but, for me, he's a great addition to my staff.
Second row on the left.
Yeah, Jeremiah Holloway with Inside Carolina. Bill, you of course talked about Max a second ago, and you just alluded to the depth of quarterback, those new guys in there. Do you and the staff have a maybe target date of when you want to name the starter, like week before the game, day before the game? Like you guys have a date in which you want to name the starter?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. We don't have a specific date. I think the time will be when we're sure. In my experience as a coach has been, at that position where you want to define who that is, and what you generally don't want to do is pick player A and then end up going to player B, let them compete, and once you're sure it's player B, make it player B or player A, whoever it goes. So I think once we're confident that we know who has earned that spot, because that's what it'll be. It's not us picking them; it'll be that player earning it. Then we'll decide on that. If it's clear cut, then that player will be the player. If it's not clear cut, maybe the competition will continue into the early part of the season. And I've done that before more at other positions than quarterback, but it could also be a quarterback where we'll see how it goes in the early part of the season. And if the performance, again, whoever earns it is going to be who gets it. That's the bottom line. Nobody's entitled to it. Nobody's been given anything. The player who plays the best and earns that playing time will get it. And I don't know who that's going to be. That'll be up to them. But it would certainly be good to have that done before the first game, and maybe even 2 weeks before the first game. The sooner the better. But it's better to make the right decision than a quick decision. So that's what we'll try to do. But that's one of the key questions we have to answer.
We have time for a couple more back center.
Rod Baxley, Fayetteville Observer. Bill, with so many unknowns and new players, what does the preseason checklist, so to speak, look like as far as progression throughout these next few weeks, the tackling plan and all that stuff?
Yeah, the biggest thing is evaluate the team. That's what we have to do, evaluate the team. We sort of have an idea of what the players who are here, that were here in the spring, can do. But again, I'd say a lot of those players have shown significant improvement, particularly in their strength conditioning, their explosion, their speed, and their techniques that they've been working on from the spring coaching. And so we'll see what that looks like. But then evaluate the other players, the many new faces that we have here, and see what kind of role they can carve out for themselves, and and how we can utilize them once we have a better understanding of their skills, and we can see them, whether it's transfer players or in some cases freshmen that are coming in. We have an idea what their skills are, and think, hey, maybe this player can do certain things, this player can do certain things, but until they actually get out on the field and prove it and earn it, we can it's challenging. I'd say the biggest challenge of all that is just the volume. You know, talk about like several thousand high school players. You weren't looking at several thousand players in the draft. And then you have portal players, which is another couple thousand, and you weren't looking at a couple thousand free agents in the NFL. It was, whatever the number was, it usually boiled down to, you know, somewhere in double digits. So the volume of players is a lot greater than what it was in the NFL.
Last one, Brian.
Kind of piggybacking off that, you added Gio Lopez and Andrew Simpson in that spring portal window. Were you looking to fill specific holes in the spring portal window? How did you evaluate those guys versus what you already had on your roster? And was it different than maybe the first portal window where you're trying to fill a team?
Yeah. No, I think you hit it right. I think the first portal was just we're just trying to find guys to build the team. Second portal, we're looking for good football players. And, you know, we felt like any position. If the player wanted to come in and compete and we thought it was a good player, then this is the right spot for him. And we'll give everybody an opportunity to compete. You know, through the course of my career, we've had many free agents, low round draft choices who not only competed and earned playing time, but some became some of our best players. So players that want to come in and compete and have shown enough skill, we'll take those guys, and we've taken plenty of them. We'll see how they do, but those are kind of the two things we're looking for. Anybody who's walking in here feeling like, well, I'm going to be the starter of this or that, I'm entitled to this, and I mean, that's not really the way it's going to work. They're going to have to earn it. If they want to come in and earn playing time and earn a roster spot, and, you know, and play at Carolina and play in the ACC, and, you know, get that kind of profile, then we'll give it to them, and we'll see if they can do it. Whatever they get, they're going to earn. We're not handing out. It's just like nobody's handing out wins in this conference. We're going to have to go earn them. We're going to have to earn our spots on the field. All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, we'll see you out there.